All right, we are live again. March
Not bad
25th,
echo.
2020. Yeah, it's a little echo. Um, doing our update. We did an update on Monday. This is Wednesday, and stuff continues to change in ways that are unexpected and unpredictable. I'm going to run through the economic numbers first here. So the Dow closed at 21,200 today, up up 400 points. And I just lost my phone here. Yesterday was up as well, which is interesting. NASDAQ closed at 73.84, down 33 points, so down almost nothing. Crude closed at 24.28, which was, again, like almost no change, 1% up. But it's been bouncing around between like 22 and 24 for a while now. It's not really doing anything. Gold closed at 16.13 or so, down 23 bucks. It's been as low as what, 1500 and as high as like 1650 in the last 2-3 days. Silver, which we were talking about on Monday, closed at 1450 or thereabouts. So it's up a lot in the last couple days, $1 and change. And then the platinum, palladium, rhodium metals, those have bounced back like crazy. Or platinum, palladium, yeah. Palladium was up 400 bucks today. Palladium's back up to 2,300. It was as low as 1,500 a couple days ago. So these huge changes. And rhodium, the bid-ask spread is 6,000, 9,000 right now. It was up 2,000 today. Bitcoin's at 6,600 or so, down a couple percent. But the whole crypto market is up substantially over a couple days ago. The market cap's at 180 billion now. Ether's at 135, so on and so forth. So I don't know. Stuff's moving up and down and sideways. What were the numbers on coronavirus, Corey?
Yeah, so global cases are 463,000 with 20,000, almost 21,000 deaths. In the last, there was a spike in U.S. deaths yesterday. So total U.S. cases is approaching 65,000 with 910 deaths, of which 225 were yesterday, up from 140 the day before. So that was a 37% increase in deaths over the period of 24 hours. So kind of a big spike there, but in Italy, they're seeing a taper off. They've had 3 days where they've had fewer deaths and cases than the day before. So good news on that front.
They've been in it for a couple months over there.
Yeah, they've been in it longer. There was an announcement by Cuomo, the governor of New York, yesterday, where he said that flattening the curve has basically failed in New York, and they saw a big jump in cases, and they were they said that they have a lot of supplies, but the outbreak is kind of outside of their control. It was not a real positive press conference that he had yesterday. So at least in some places in the U.S., we're still in the knee of the curve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the U.S. is what, the third most cases globally now?
Globally, yeah, it's, let's see, by total cases, it's China, Italy, U.S., Spain. Spain's coming on pretty strong. They had 5,000 new cases yesterday. U.S. had 10,000. Sorry, these are today's numbers. which aren't completed until it doesn't roll over until like 8 in the afternoon Alaska time, and there's already 10,000 new cases in the U.S. today.
Yeah, onward it goes. I keep on running into conflicting
10,000 new cases.
in the U.S.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, you made it.
Got Rob on board.
Nice. I'm trying to send you. It's not working for me. Dave, you want to, when we get into the economic stuff, if you want to post from Economic Policy Journal, the top story there with the stimulus package, the actual dollars.
Yes.
It's a little bit more than the 2 trillion we keep hearing the buzz about.
Right.
When we get there.
Real quick, David, do you want to announce that we have a call line? That'll be coming up later, but.
Yeah, we do. That's what this caller relay is. I'm actually going to pull him out of the chat right now. But we have a call line. Corey set up a phone in line so people can actually call in on phone and we can chat. So we're going to post that in the live comments in a little bit, and then people can dial in. We'll definitely be using that on Saturday. That'll be really cool.
This is kind of our dry run for it today. So.
Yeah, exactly. Test run.
The number may change as well.
Yep. Right. Yeah. You had a couple things, Josh. You had a note about the 5G bill.
Yeah. House Resolution, what was it? 116. Well, it's Public Law 116-129. Basically, it's the 5G. I didn't read the whole thing yet. Secure 5G and Beyond Act of 2020 was put into law 2 days ago, which is pretty interesting in light of what we talked about. Was it Monday?
On Monday.
Yeah. So just a quick synopsis of it. This bill requires the president, in consultation with relevant federal agencies, to develop a strategy to secure and protect U.S. fifth and future generation systems and infrastructure. Such strategy shall ensure the security of 5G wireless communication systems and infrastructure within the United States, assist mutual defense treaty allies, strategic partners, and other countries in maximizing the security of 5G systems and infrastructure, and protect the competitiveness of U.S. companies, privacy of U.S. customers, and integrity of standard-setting bodies. So 5G is on the move.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, we were talking about potential health crossover risk with 5G and coronavirus, and that's something we're still looking into. All the areas that are super hard hit with like high lethality, which looks like a different version of the virus or something, are 60 gigahertz or are probably 60 gigahertz 5G areas. And 60 gigahertz 5G interacts with oxygen in a really bad way. So I don't know. There's just something else that's out there. I keep running into conflicting stories about the whole thing too.
There's breaking news there.
Oh, 21-day. Idaho governor just issued 21-day stay-at-home order. In the live chat from Celia. Yeah. I don't know. I keep running into conflicting stuff where people are saying, "Oh, it's about to blow over," or
those two narratives are getting more extreme too. There's no, as time goes on and presumably more information is available, those are diverging, which is really crazy. Even within the medical and scientific community, there's a fair amount of differing opinions on what's going on, and even different doctors that I've talked to have come to very different conclusions about where this is going. And then I think people pick their experts that they want to listen to, and then they present their facts, and it gets amplified in politics, and the policy side gets really pulled around by what's probably relatively small disagreements in verbiage of papers and stuff like that. It gets really amplified. So
Mm-hmm. That's a good way to put it. Amplification. Yeah. Rob, what are your thoughts? You've been in on our chat group all the last few days. What are your thoughts on this? Like, is this a real thing? We were talking about maybe this came through Fairbanks already and people already got it and they just didn't know it. What do you think?
That's kind of my feelings, but like I said, I'm health professional or no doctor, uneducated altogether, and I don't know if you can hear me or see me very well right now because I'm having trouble with the visual on my end.
You look okay. You sound good. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't know. But is that it's pretty much already run its course, and it would make sense as far as any virus goes with the lack of quarantine we had when it first started. There's just no way that, in my opinion, that it could have been stopped. But
Yeah, if it came through, and that's one of the theories. Like I keep seeing that on the internet. And Corey, you had a link. Do you want to throw that video in the private comments? I'll link it up in the comments here.
yeah, I'll find it in a second here.
There are these. Yeah, run through 'em.
Yeah, Brett Weinstein and his wife Heather. They are the ones that were in the big Evergreen scandal, or not scandal, but whenever Evergreen College blew up, that was his class, and he was attacked. Anyways, he has a podcast called Dark Horse, and he covers some cultural stuff, but also a lot of evolutionary science, and they were discussing it, and one of the ideas that they are playing with is that it spread much quicker because of airplanes. It spread around the globe almost instantly, and that most people have had it or have it right now, and because there is a strong focus on conducting all the RNA tests to find positive or currently positive cases, there's no emphasis on the antibody tests. And without antibody tests, you can't tell who has had it. And if you can't tell who's had it, then you don't know who is safe to go back to work. And the economic impact of having a bunch of people who think that they're sick or at risk of getting sick means that nobody can help those who are sick. And they have been talking with some of their listeners, and they had their own experience with getting Heather and her son, who are both very healthy, got extremely sick with all the symptoms of coronavirus in mid-February after she traveled to Los Angeles. And so they're wondering if it's already kind of passed, and they go into some of the details on how viruses, they're careful because they're scientists, they're careful not to anthropomorphize the intention of viruses, but they talk about different strategies that viruses and life forms in general use to, they call it projecting themselves into the future, or that's the intent of life forms, is to not just replicate, but replicate in a way that sees that the genes keep moving forward in time. And so viruses use things such as dormancy and not causing a strong expression and lots of symptoms in a lot of cases. And it's not really known how the virus knows when to and when to not cause symptoms in somebody, but it lets the virus spread around a lot wider and faster if it's not causing everybody to get sick.
Yeah. Do you have the link to their little blurb?
Yeah, I have a timestamp for when they kind of dive into that part of their talk. It's a bit towards the end. They also referenced there was a recent study that came out of, I think, Imperial College in London, and they said that, and they did it based on modeling, not measurement, but they thought that half of people in Britain have already had the coronavirus.
Mm-hmm. So then it just turns into a game of you notice whatever you're measuring.
Yep. And they said that one of the here's the link, private chat. One of the symptoms for asymptomatic people, I note that one of the minor symptoms for asymptomatic people is a sudden loss or degradation of sense of smell or taste, because taste is to a large part smell. So they said if all other things are normal and you don't have any symptoms, but all of a sudden you can't taste your food, that's a pretty strong indicator that you could have coronavirus and not be symptomatic. But it's a subtle thing, like not everybody would notice that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Especially with the.
It made me think about my own. Well, I've been eating or using lots of hot sauce on my food,
Okay.
and I haven't noticed anything else. But when they said that, I was like, well, that's interesting, because I just finished a bottle of hot sauce after a couple of days.
Powering through it. Cool. Do you want to run through Economic Policy Journal there, Josh? I'm going to post up the link to the article. Stimulus package.
Yeah, I was gonna go back real quick to the different narratives that we're getting, that you guys are talking about. You know, it's skyrocketing. It's almost over. We saw the president wants to be back to normal by Easter Sunday. He wants all the churches full, yada yada. And a lot of that divide that you're talking about, Corey, is really going political, because like the governor of Louisiana, they're having a pretty hard time. Looks like they're the next hot spot or whatever, hotbed after New York as far as cases per day. And our next door neighbor, Mississippi, they're saying, we'll never be like China. We're not doing nothing like that. Rawr. So it's really coming down party lines right now. A lot of the Republicans are, getting behind their man. And the Democrats are getting behind their man, who seems to be the new party champion, is Governor Cuomo. Too bad for him, he's not running for president this go around, huh? He's kind of the talking head for the Democratic Party, it seems like. But just be aware when you hear either side right now, the politicalization of both sides is really ramping up. So getting true statements, getting the truth out of either side, now you have to take that grain of salt to understand what their motives are, because each one is vying for political power. Either way these things go can destroy either party, basically, or really put a hurting on them.
And everybody in the middle
So
pays for it.
Mhm.
yeah, we do. We're the ones that pay. So on to the Economic Policy Journal, Wenzel threw up a little article with Larry Kudlow, who's the chief economic advisor for Trump, and it looks like the U.S. economy, the bailout package for the U.S. economy and coronavirus panic, will actually total $6 trillion. So not the two that kind of gets bandied around on the news blips. He says, yes, you read that right, 6 trillion. 4 trillion in lending power for the Federal Reserve and 2 trillion more in aid package. Kudlow says the package will be the single largest Main Street assistance program in the history of the United States. Says 2 trillion of the emergency bill, when passed, all things last night said it was a done deal. They had everything settled. I figured it was going to be passed this morning, but there's 3 or 4 Republicans holding it up right now, saying that they think there's some incentives in there for businesses to lay off their workers because they'll get an extra $650 to $700 on unemployment, including what the state is paying them already per week. So in Alaska, I think our unemployment's somewhere around $400, maybe $350 or something. So you'd get another $600 to $700. So you'd be looking at over $1,000 a week. And these Republicans are kind of concerned. I don't actually like any one of the Republicans that are doing it. It's Lindsey Graham, Cotton, and some other jackass. I figure they're probably just stopping it because there's no new wars started in it or something. But they're saying it's because this could incentivize businesses laying people off, taking the benefit of the package for themselves and letting the federal government kick in that extra stipend, which, you know, how many people would want to quit working if they're going to go home and get $1,100 a week? It's not a bad deal. So it's not passed yet. So $2 trillion of the emergency bill will be direct checks to American families. Bailouts for the airline industry will be around $350 billion for now. Remember, they're already saying they don't think it's enough and they're going to have to do another one. The other $4 trillion will allow Federal Reserve to make huge emergency bailouts to whoever they choose. And this is the big part. He says some of the Fed stuff might be paper shuffle, but we're talking about a $2 trillion plus hitting the real economy. There's no way this doesn't turn into an accelerating price inflation on the other side of this panic. We may see the inflation kick in slowly based on indexes such as the Consumer Price Index, as there will be early discounts, for example, with airlines, hospitality sectors, which makes sense. The prices are going to be climbing where people are actually spending that money. I think that's probably, economically, guys, I think that's probably the biggest, I mean, besides the economic shutdown that we've seen really in the last several months. You know, our other buddy Josh has been experiencing it, I think, more than the rest of us early on. But besides the actual economic shutdown, if we see $2+ trillion hit the actual economy where it's cash into the economy, could see major, we have to see, well, I don't want to say have to because nothing seems to work out exactly the way we think so, because we're all individual actors. But in general, we should see a huge price inflation, possible hyperinflation.
He says, I thought this was interesting at the end, is that prices are going to be climbing where people are actually spending their money. You know, you read that off. That was like his
Right.
last line, and that's that'll be the weird thing is, yeah, like the CPI won't show it because they'll be able to bury it. But where are people going to spend their money on the backside? everybody gets $1,000 or whatever, or 4,000, or who knows? What do they spend it on when this is over?
Where you're looking at 2,400 per couple plus 5 to 700 per child. So you're looking at $4,000 to $5,000 per household. And unfortunately, we know that most people aren't going to go buy gold with it. They're going to go down and buy a new big screen TV or such things like that.
I think that may start to
was a
change
pretty good
for some
insight,
people,
though.
but probably not enough
Yeah.
to make a big difference.
Either way, would you guys agree that probably 90% of Americans don't save a dime? They're going to have it and spend it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're already in debt.
Which in an
they're going to be using
inflationary,
that
right?
to cover some of their existing debts that they'll be accruing during this time.
Well, in an inflationary environment, though, you don't want to be sitting on the money. It's kind of a double-edged sword. It's going to be worth less every minute that you're hanging on to it.
Have mortgage rates already adjusted for the Fed rate cut?
I actually talked to a friend of mine in Arizona 2 days ago, and he said he talked to his bank and they had cut his interest. Well, he could refinance and get a point lower right now. He's at 4 something, and they can get him at 3. And they told him, he said, call me back when it's at 2. And they said, oh, it's just right around the corner. He's going to refinance once it hits 2%.
Okay.
And the 10-year and the 30-year, or the 1 year of the 10-year? I know the 10 year's in there, but 2 of those treasury bonds are now in the negative. They're
Nice.
bearing negative interest. So get out there and support your government and buy some bonds. Pay them to have bonds.
15-year fixed from my credit union in Fairbanks is 2.875 right now.
Wow.
Yeah, 30-year fixed 3.375. I got a good rate at 4.625 in 2010 or whatever. So yeah, that's already had a knock-on effect. Interesting. What is your current angle on everything, Mike? You and I had a short call. You were talking about coming back to Fairbanks or Stan. What's your take on stuff right now? Whoop. You got us, Mike? You might be muted.
No, I'm here. The internet's so bad it's cutting in and out.
Oh, yeah, you sound great. There's
Okay.
no buzz or anything. Sounds awesome.
Yeah, you were out there for a minute. Anyway, what was your? I totally missed the last 2 minutes.
Okay, we were just talking about interest rates and price inflation as a result of the $2 trillion cash injection. What's your take on what's going on? Like, everybody's still trying to decide what's real and what's not real. And we talked a little bit about, you were talking about coming back to Alaska versus staying.
Yeah. Well, with the interest rates to start off with, the Fed is trying to keep the interest rates down. That's why they're pumping so much into the repo markets. If they didn't do that, the interest rates would spike as the perceived risk increases, which is what's happened when they paused on their injections. And so as far as inflation goes,
Oh, we lost you, Mike.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, there's the Europeans are rushing to the dollars right now, and there is discussion about Europe canceling their currency, which is not unusual for Europe. So they've been restricting the cash withdrawals from banks, and they've also been putting restrictions on gold deliveries to individuals. And so Europeans are moving to the dollar very rapidly, which is causing a shortage of dollars going all around, and that's a deflationary force. So, if the Fed was to just stop doing what they're doing, stop doing anything, you'd see deflation and rising interest rates. There's there is a discussion, well, not a discussion, but there was a bill, not it was a portion of a bill to start a Fed coin, and it was one of the bills they're trying to pass.
It was in the stimulus bill.
Dropped out again here, Mike.
And
There you are.
and then it was put into another one, scrubbed from the original. And essentially, it's introducing Fed coin that would be
In and out. I'm looking at the euro right now on Forex. It's 92.92 euros gets you $1. Alrighty, in and out. Hopefully we get a little better connection there. So what do you guys think is next? Like, we talked about silver on Monday, which was a good call. What do you think is next?
Well, I
That's a hard one.
I moved into cryptocurrency the other day, and it went down, so that's right on schedule.
You should have told us right after you bought, because that would be the best then.
Yeah, wait 12
Billy
hours.
would have jumped.
Well, right now it looks like I don't know how long it'll last, but stocks are rallying, and regardless of whether you think or believe that the stock market is healthy, and that's a good, that's a long-term investment that is a game you could play at this time, but I'm not, because I think that the risk, I just don't think that's where it's going long term, and I don't want to be so attached to the markets that I'm looking at it every 10 minutes. So I think long term, my position will do well, and I don't have to watch it as much. So.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I moved some cash into a trading account. It's just sitting there as cash. And then whatever happens next, like, it'll just sit there as cash. If something goes on sale again, I might buy some stuff. I was actually looking at getting some platinum, because it was really, really cheap. It was like $650.
$1 trillion platinum?
Yes, $1 trillion platinum.
I'll just take one of those, please. Oh my gosh, the economic stupidity of that woman just drives you nuts. I mean, it just drives you nuts. We won't even be borrowing it because we'll print it. Oh.
We owe the debt to ourselves.
Yeah. If people don't know, that I don't remember what her name is, because I try to forget these people as quickly as possible. But there's one congresswoman who wants to give every American a debit card with $2,000 on it, and $1,000 payment to that credit card, or whatever they call it, every month for up to a year after the coronavirus event is dealt with. and she said the way to pay for it was just to print two
Mint.
coins, mint 2 coins of $1 trillion each, and hand it over to the Federal Reserve and cash it in. So that just seemed really positive to her.
That idea, I think, has been floating around since 2012. People have been talking about the $1 trillion coin, and the reason. Well, okay, so I heard that the reason for doing it, if you need $2 trillion, you don't mint one $2 trillion coin. You mint two $1 trillion coins so that you can just keep stamping them out as needed. And once there's already two, it's easier to stomach a third and a fourth and a fifth.
Genius.
So yeah, I was wondering about the that debit card, if that's just cash that you could spend on whatever, or if it's for like essential, if it's like a food stamps program where there's some things that are maybe blacklisted, like you couldn't go down to the coin store and buy silver with it.
That is how they pay disability in Ontario. There's a few
Is there any restriction on what you can spend it on, or?
Not that I know of. I mean, I know a couple people are on disability, and some of them are like, trying to put their lives back together and really working at it. And I knew a guy, he lived down the block from me, and he just didn't. His problem was sort of money. He never had any money, but his problem was he didn't know what to do with it when he did. He was a really hardworking guy, and he was on disability, like mental disability. And he had a debit card, and it got, I think, $1,500 a month. Got refilled on the 1st of every month, and on the 5th or the 6th, he'd show up at my front door asking for money for food because he was out. He'd ran out, and he wasn't making his rent, which was $500 a month. He would spend the money before he made his rent, and I asked him what he spent it on, and he had like new Jordans, and he had a new hat. He always had a new cap every month. So he'd spend, I don't know, like $600 or $700 at Foot Locker. Then he'd buy a couple $100 worth of smokes, and then he would buy food at the corner store where it's super expensive. And so he was through his $1,500. But it astounded me that it was just a debit card that refilled. There was no, as far as I know, there was no restriction on it at all. But that idea sounds absurd, but it's actually how they do disability here.
He'd probably be better off if they did daily deposits instead of monthly.
Daily would actually be great for him. Yeah, it would have been better for him. Yep. Yeah. So anyway, that idea sounds absurd, but like that's what happens for him. And it was $1,500 a month. He was like, he get $1,500 a month. It was like, whoa. And when he went to work, it got cut to $500. So he had to work. Like he got a job that should have paid $1,500 a month, but he missed it a bunch, and so he ended up making less than the $1,000 that he lost. So he ended up stopping working again.
Right, you have to work more than $1,000 a month, or you have to work $1,000 a month for free, and then anything else on top is extra.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's no fun.
No. You guys have any other thoughts? We got our number. We haven't used our phone number here. There's not too many people streaming right now. You got any other thoughts on action items? I mean, like, yeah, I'm just sitting in cash and waiting to see what happens. I have no idea if this is real or not. Like, I don't know.
I think you're correct. Wait. Any move right now could be a real right one, and it could be a real wrong one. I mean, the stimulus package, I think, is the biggest thing of what becomes of it and how the markets adjust to it, how long they adjust to it, and how long it takes for politicians to say they need a round two. I mean, is that in 21 days? Is that on Easter? when Trump wants everyone back to work, that they get kicked in with another $6 trillion? It's hard to tell. This isn't the last one for this event, I don't think, by any stretch.
One of the things that I'm kind of afraid of is looking forward. This issue could just go completely unresolved, and like when the history books are written, all the same varied narratives will exist. Like it'll never get resolved, even once it's over. There'll still be disagreement about what happened and who was at fault and what should have been done instead. And I think what that means for the economy is just more. It's just injected a huge amount of uncertainty into everyone's lives, and the world was already kind of heading that way. And I think it's just like this is just like a big chaos bomb, and it's not going to get. There'll never be a history book that says this is exactly what happened in the beginning of 2020, and this is how we stop it from happening again, because we now know how to avoid it. Like it just means that there's more icebergs out there, and we don't have a radar.
Without a map, any road
Let's
will do.
say that, yeah. Let's say that Trump does his sounds the all clear alarm on Easter, like he's talking about doing. How well does the economy actually bounce back if you have these different, I'll use the word rogue states that are saying, no, we're keeping the 21-day, like Idaho. If they're shutting down for 21 days, Easter is a lot sooner than that. So can the U.S. economy kickstart back up? Say if 25, 35 of the states are on lockdown and the other 25 say, nope, we're good to go, because we're interconnected so much. I mean, look at Amazon right now. Saw a story this morning that several of their warehouses, they've had corona cases of several employees in different warehouses around the nation. So, I mean, if you can't even get Amazon stuff, how much can the economy move forward if the whole economy is not moving forward? I guess.
Well, it'll really incentivize people to end their, or cities or states to end their quarantines as early as possible, because you can make the bet that it's not real. And if you're the first back to the economy, you get all the dropped contracts, and you get to pick up work sooner. And I think this could be a case where whoever gets back into work first gets to keep the work for a while. So there's we saw that with China. We knew that was coming with China, that there's a big incentive to be the first back to work. But if you're wrong, the downside's pretty extreme too. So.
And that's an open question with China. That's something Josh L was talking about on the chat today. Like, yeah, and I got a notice from one of my circuit board vendors. They're shipping. They say they're back to 100% capacity. But Shanghai and Shenzhen and these places didn't get hit really. So, or maybe they did, and the virus was not that bad. Like, nobody knows. But if there's a second wave, like, I don't know. Yeah, time will tell. But it could be the kind of thing where everybody's just waiting forever and nothing happens too.
Yep.
There you go. You're welcome.
Not a good day to be a politician. Yeah.
No. Yeah, we should get into the Alaska side of this on Friday when we do the next one, because Alaska's in bad shape.
Well, and every day that goes by too, we'll know a little bit more how bad the shape they really are in. And we're not speaking for people watching, we're not speaking about the overwhelming crisis of coronavirus victims in the state. We're talking about oil prices being in the $20 range and the state of Alaska being broke. And yet, despite that, they're pushing forward with $1 billion bailout bill of their own and a $1,300, I think a $1,300 dividend to be sent out immediately.
Yep. They're looking to basically drain the PFD, like not just the money that they get every year from the investments, but the capital. And then there's no more. It's not like the dividend gets small. It's like the dividend stops to exist. And then the state can't fund itself from that either. And so then you have a sales tax and probably an income tax at the same time, and no more PFD starting like next year.
But it was done for a good cause, right? You got to help people in need.
Yep. Repealing the Jones Act will look really good if that happens.
It could look really good. Well, you got to have continuity of government, guys, no matter what happens.
COG, that's right there in the Declaration of Independence.
Yep. .gov must survive.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we're in the middle of more questions, really. Ride it out.
Ride it out. Cool. Yeah, that's how it feels. That's how it feels to me, too.
Are you going to try the listener number just to see if it might work? Somebody would call us to help out.
Yeah, we can just chat, and if somebody calls in, that's great.
Oh, we won't see their face, so you guys are safe there.
No, we won't. We only have 4 people or 4, users in the StreamYard right now. We can do 6, so we can bring people in over StreamYard too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it works. I just tested it on Android for the first time. You have to have Chrome on your Android device.
Okay, and then it works.
Yep.
Cool.
I tried it in Firefox and it was not happy.
Right.
So I've been using Zoom for talking to people all over for the last 2 weeks, and I've had an incredible rate of audio issues with my Zoom as well as other people's Zoom on their laptops and their phones. For some reason, Zoom has a hard time getting the audio, but once it's all ironed out, it works pretty good.
I've been having audio issues too. It seems like there's a market for better audio drivers.
Well, I think the solution for that was phones, because the audio is built into the hardware, so you don't have to mess with it.
Yes. Oh, everybody's shy. Nobody wants to call in.
I saw they were looking at possible slowings of the internet too, because of so many people staying at home and watching Netflix.
Right. Everyone.
Yeah, they actually. I think Netflix started downsampling stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. I think they slowed their European the streams to Europe for that reason. Yeah, because I imagine all their servers with their storage are in the U.S. So streaming to Europe ties up the lines.
Yeah, they can slow them down, but they better not slow us down. Looks like the Tanana Chiefs Conference is sent out. Let's see. Knock it off. Every time you get on some of these pay for sites like the News Minus, you can't get the story right away because it wants to go on and on and on about how it's giving you the story for free because of coronavirus.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So they're sending out a few thousand to everyone.
For anyone just listening, the call-in number is 775-525-0924.
First
need-
caller
we need
gets a
to-
secret prize.
Yes, they get their call answered.
We have
And we
a YouTube,
guarantee you don't get coronavirus.
yeah,
From the call.
from the call.
You may get it. You may get it on your own, but
We have a YouTube commenter a couple minutes ago, actually brought up a couple times. What do you think about the rent strike that's gaining momentum? And I'd seen some stuff about this in Seattle, and they said, yeah, Seattle and Olympia, but getting national attention. I think this is like there's so much fragility in our society right now. Housing being one of those areas that I think the rent strike could, beyond Mike was talking about how the Fed's pumping a bunch of money into basically the housing market already, like mortgages that have gone belly up. But the rent strike, it doesn't take very long of people not paying rent for the landlords to default, and very few landlords own their buildings. Almost everything's financed. Like they're building all these new. The area I live in is growing rapidly, and housing prices are skyrocketing. And when a new development goes in, it's all intended to be residential, like owner, uh, whatever, owner occupied. Ends up being like 70% rentals because people buy them speculating on the price, and then they rent them out to wait for the price to go up. Anyway, those guys don't last but a month or two if they're not getting rent. And so renters not paying rent could be the thing that totally blows up housing, or blows it up even faster than it is already.
right, and then it falls on the banks. The banks
Even
get a bunch of defaults, and on it goes.
even in the commercial side of things, I was thinking about that here in Fairbanks. With the ramp up of work on the slope, there's been dozens and dozens and dozens of truck shops put up in the last couple of years. And if that work goes to stop, or if it gets ramped back by not hundreds, but by a few billion, different projects are shut down. It's not going to be worth it to pay $2,000-3,000 a month to have a shop for your truck that's just to keep it warm.
Mhm.
Yep, I've been seeing the same thing here. I'm actually looking for some commercial space, and there's a lot available. And like there'll be a building with 4 units. 2 of them are empty, 2 of them are occupied, but the occupied ones are occupied by businesses that are just hanging on by a thread. So it doesn't take much. Like you were saying, Josh, it doesn't take much to push those other 2 over the edge, and then you got a fully unoccupied building. And if everybody's broke and nobody can get financed, there aren't going to be any businesses moving in.
In the beginning of the Dark Horse podcast that I mentioned earlier, they talk about system fragility and anti-fragility, and the example that they used is squirrels and acorns. And on some distribution, some squirrels store way more acorns than they can eat in a year, and some people have pointed out that that's a waste of I'm sure these are economists point out that it's a waste of resources to store more than you need. But what they say happens is every 100 years there's a bad winter that kills a bunch of squirrels that have not stored enough acorns for the average winter. And then they ask, or they propose that our global economic system has just not stored enough acorns, and it only takes one 100-year storm to really upset the acorn basket, as it were.
I love that. I love that. The anti-fragility thing is interesting. I mean, that falls in that warehousing. Like, what are you gonna buy? Like, warehousing's a good thing to buy.
Yeah.
But yeah, what does this look like? I mean, it's so weird to be investing in anything while the economy's being destroyed. It's like, what currency is even going to be used on the other side at this point? Like,
Yep.
who knows?
Hey, Mike, if you're having audio trouble and you want to join us, you can try our call line
Oh, okay.
on your cell phone.
I'll try this for right now. I'm using a
Okay.
see if this works.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay.
We were just
I think it would be remiss. Sorry.
no, go for it.
Oh.
I was going to say, I think we'd be remiss to not mention that Prince Charles of England has been the newest celebrity victim of the coronavirus, which I kind of have a couple different feelings. It's one of two things. Either the Queen started this whole thing to bump him off, so she get rid of him and put the kid up there, or she asked him to get sick because the reptilian stuff is really re-emerging about the Queen. We all know she's actually a reptile. So she's like, Charles, you got to get the virus so people know that even us part humans can get it too. Yeah, prove
It's
it.
not true. He doesn't have
It's
it.
one of those two things. He doesn't even have it. He can't get it.
Nobody's seen the test
can't
results.
Well, maybe the virus was produced by incubating it in lizards.
That's true.
There we go. I'm a couple.
And the bat ate a lizard.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. That's right. David Icke, speaking of
But I think those are
people,
really the only two. Those are the only two possibilities.
Speaking of lizard people, David Icke's putting out some pretty excellent videos about the whole thing right now.
Yeah.
Which are quite good, and they're quite good actually. It's pretty fun. We were kicking around the question, Mike, of what on Monday we talked about action items a little bit, and we talked about like silver looking good, and that sort of worked out. What do you think like right now? Like what's going on? What direction do you think things are moving in? And what would you do as an action item right now?
Direction are moving. Well, I guess. Well, when I dropped off back, we were talking about the Fed coin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one thing that they're trying to push in. And what I wonder about that is if you go back to the Great Depression, gold was the currency back then, right? Or that was the backing. And so there was there was an issue of deflation then, for the same reason as now, because Europeans were flocking to the dollar, and so the answer was to devalue it. And so they so it was went from $20 per ounce to 35 per ounce by legislation. And during that time, or right before that time, there was a prohibition on pulling cash out of the bank and making deposits as well. So I kind of wonder if that's what's going to happen next with FedCoin. As they redefine the currency, are they going to devalue it in order to correct for the deflation, the hoarding that Europeans are doing right now, the dollar, in order to escape the uncertainty of the euro? So I think that's one thing to watch for. Yeah, I think that's one thing to watch for. If they do that, I would want to hold a commodity like gold or silver as an end run around that devaluation. Because then at the end I could cash it back in for the new coin if I'm going to use the new coin, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And not lose in the transaction. Whereas if I just had to trade in if I just took the dollars, if I just did it with dollars, I would lose in the transaction.
Yep.
So that's one thing I'm thinking about. But I mean that's still something to be looked for. I don't know if that's what's going to happen or not.
Sure. Well, that's something.
Well, we have a president that's been, since the day he got into office, has been talking about how much he hates a strong dollar.
Yeah, and
He likes it
I mean,
weak.
yeah, and it does make for bad. It does make for a bad currency when it comes to trade. If your currency is high, then it makes your exports uncompetitive. But using monetary policy to force the value of the currency doesn't work. So, um, yeah, so that's his answer, and he comes from a school of thought that the state can force the answer rather than the market. The reason that the
Right.
dollar is high is because the reason the dollar is high is because of market forces. It's not because it's not going to be corrected by a state action. Keynesian economics has failed, and Keynesian economics was based on the state action. It doesn't work, did it?
No, Trump's sort of the king of fiat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
he is.
But when it comes to the question of inflation or deflation, with what's coming about right now, like with the universal basic income that they were talking about, people tend to, when people are confident in the future, when they're confident that they're going to get the paycheck next week and the week after, they spend their money, right? They don't think about the possibility of losing the paycheck. But when people are uncertain about the future, they hoard. And so if people are uncertain, if people receive this check and it's like, I'm just getting this for this week and next week, and that's it. I don't know if we're going to keep getting it. Well, they're going to hoard the money, and they're going to conserve it as much as they can. If the government goes and guarantees it every month for the rest of their lives, then they're going to spend it.
Do you think that might be the strategy they use to flush it out? Like they're going to do one, right? They're going to give away one, and then
right.
I think Corey's right. I think a lot of people are going to use it. I think you might have mentioned it too. A lot of people are going to use it to pay their mortgage, like a rent, which is cool. But a lot of people, I think, will hoard it, and I wonder if that'll be the thing they say is, well, this only works if people go out and spend it, so we need to guarantee it.
Yeah, like you have to promise to go spend it, or you have to spend it in order to receive the next check.
Yeah, your card only refills if it's empty or something like that.
Yeah, that's a possibility. They could do that.
We should be making policy.
We should make policy. I know one thing. My boat just got twice as big.
That's a good insight, though.
Hey, then Trump can really say that he's done more for Christianity than Christ, because he can say, look, all he did was multiply some fish and loaves. I'm multiplying the dollars, baby. And as much as you spend, you shall receive.
Yeah, it's the demand for the dollar right now is so high. They could release $2 trillion into the economy, but if the demand for dollars is, if it's 3 trillion, if there's a demand for $3 trillion and it gets sucked up, it's still deflationary. So it's a matter of the sum, that's it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Because they're using this crisis to bring in basic universal income, to bring in a new currency model, at least very least in Europe. Europe may cancel their currency soon, which is not unusual for Europe. And so there's a lot of uncertainty outside the U.S. And the U.S. looks uncertain at this point. But then there's also the police state issues. my understanding is if I go back home right now, I'm going to get locked in my house and I can't even go to the grocery store for 2 weeks. So, I mean, a year ago, would any of us imagine that this would happen and that people would accept it?
I
No,
think we
Mike, but
probably
you
could
know
have
what they
imagined
say.
people would accept it, but not that it would happen.
Right. And now people beg for it.
I think we got a caller
Well,
on the
one
line.
of these
Do you guys
jerks
wanna-
is going to get on. One of these jerks is going to get on TV and go, "We're all socialists now." Her.
We got a caller.
Yeah. Should be a caller on the line.
Beep.
Oh,
Caller, you are on Patriots Lament.
Caller.
Yes, hello.
Hey, how's it going?
It's at work. I had to go over into an empty bay where I can talk without being too noisy. I was told I should call in to explain the General Assemblies.
The General Assemblies. Clue us in.
Yes, the General Assemblies. My name is Destry. I live here in Alaska. I used to live in Michigan. I was involved in the Michigan General Assembly for about 10 years.
All right, what's going on in Alaska? Is this sovereign citizen related? Is this a de jure assembly?
This is the de jure assembly of original jurisdiction prior to 1861.
What is your take and the take of people in the sovereign citizen, who have that knowledge? What do you guys make of what's going on in the de facto world right now?
Well, I can explain what it is, how it got to be, and what the real reality is. 1861, the South walked out of Congress, which caused a sine die. In other words, adjournment with no day to resume. When that happened, our constitutional form of Republican government went vacant, empty, nobody sitting in the seats. 1863, Abraham Lincoln brings forward General Order 100, which put America under the control of the United States military until the people returned to self-governing. After 10 years, the military hires the Virginia Company to run our country. When the Virginia Company was hired to provide the 19 governmental services, they did a name change to United States. That's what's been running the show all the way up to today. The United States, Inc., under Title 28, Section 3002, is a foreign banker-owned corporation. So
we are a little bit familiar with some of the history there. What are you guys doing today? Like, what is your response to what's going on today, now?
Well, December 2011, there was 21 orders. They were labeled requisitions that were given to the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the Pentagon. My autograph is one of 50 on those orders for what's going on today. Donald Trump being president is a result of those orders. We are to return to self-governing. We are to return to common law. Virtually, the NASARA Act will be brought forward. It's all included in the 21 requisitions. We had in them requisitions in order to return to space exploration. Hence, Donald Trump with a Space Force. Now, what we need to do today is to get our assemblies and our local communities organized, hold our elections, and give notice that we are back on the land. We are settlers.
This is what you guys are meeting about today.
Yes. We are following our founding fathers' footsteps, resettling the land. Alaska has never been settled by the people. It was purchased as a military district, 1867. 1959, was it? The corporation brought forward a constitution for Alaska. It had nothing to do with the people. We are still settlers on this land. We still must settle it. That's why we have boroughs, not counties.
Mm-hmm.
United Nations can't do counties.
Right. What's your action plan? I mean, so I've run across this, and there's a lot.
I lost you there.
What's the action
Sorry, we're getting
plan
some echoes.
for putting the knowledge into tangible action? Like, what are you guys doing today where you're going to actually, do something that's recognized?
We are reaching out. We are reaching out for people who want to get off the fence, roll up their sleeves, get their hands dirty in their local communities to organize the assembly.
And so you need a certain number of people, or just general social recognition, or what has been missing that would make this more broadly recognized this time around?
What's missing is people knowing history. We've been taught a false history throughout our childhood, our school history books. It's all a false history. There's been over 50 of us that have gone through archives in Philadelphia, New York, and multiple other states, extracting true history out of the archives. Philadelphia, when the Constitutional Convention happened, a reporter asked Ben Franklin, "What form of government you brought upon us?" He says, "A Republican form of constitutional government." George Washington, standing right behind him, said, "If you can keep it." General Lee, standing behind George Washington, says, "If you can't, you'll end up with a democracy."
Yeah, which appears to be where we are now.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wish you luck with your General Assembly. Let us know how that goes. Like, you're usually in the YouTube comments. Let us know how that goes. We're looking forward to hearing about that.
Well, it's going to take the actions of the people only to do it. The military can't do it. Representatives can't do it. Only the people can, and it must start in the local communities. Second commandment in the 10 Commandments says, "No false gods before me."
Yep, all meaningful action happens in the communities first. That's for sure.
That's right.
Very cool. And you posted the info in the live chat there, so people can go and look at the live chat. And it's a 7 p.m. Alaska time, Common Law State Assembly, and you posted the call-in numbers right there.
Do you think that there's going to be some kind of inflection point caused by the coronavirus that will accelerate or prevent this from what you're talking about from happening?
You're referencing Smokescreen 19. In the 21 requisitions that were issued, military action is being taken to take down the bad hombres. We were asked back in October if our assemblies are ready. Unfortunately, we had to respond with, "No, they are not yet." I said, "Hurry up and get it done so we don't get lawyers getting into the gap."
Cool. So this is your window of opportunity then?
Yes, it's the people's window of opportunity. They have a saying in D.C., the Democrats do, "Never let a good crisis go by without taking advantage of it."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, we learned from that. As COVID-19 is a perfect time when all your kids are at home with their armed parents where they can't be held hostage. The people are out of the way. The criminals can be rounded up. Gitmo's open for business.
Well, let us know how your assembly goes. I think everybody on this show right now pretty much is a non-participant in any form of government, de jure or de facto. So that's why I say your. I'm not saying that it's separate or anything like that. Just that we are non-participants in any form. But yeah, let us know how that
Now,
goes.
I want to give you the definitions of de jure and de facto. De facto is defined as illegitimate, but in effect.
Mm-hmm.
De jure is defined as of one's right. Now, I want to give a couple of websites where people can research what's going on, understand this. One is national-assembly.net.
Cool. We'll put those in the show notes. If you want to copy some of those links into the live comments, that would be great too.
Mm-hmm. I'll put them in there.
Because then
National
people can
Assembly.
click on them.
What's the other link?
The other one is alaskadejure.org.
Very cool. The Alaska General Assembly.
Yes, and there's a third, michigandejure.org.
All right.
There's a Quaranto Board of Inquiry that was given public notice years ago. We reseated the original Article 3 Supreme Court, the one that's been vacant in D.C. all these years. We got 9 justices elected to it. We passed the first de jure law since prior to 1861 called the Contempt of Constitution. I was one of several statesmen and delegates that were locked in a gymnasium when we enacted that. I was part of the enactment. I got to write it. There's a lot going on that people don't know about. I hope they can research these websites, understand it, and it's up to them if they want to move forward with it. The more the merrier. This is our
Very
right.
cool. Yeah, links are here. Thank you for the information. I think there'll be some people out there who find it interesting. The history part is very fascinating. I agree with you, and I hope that you guys are finding a better way forward than the way forward we're moving right now.
That'll work. That's just experience in history speaking there. I was fortunate enough to be the one to spearhead educating people in all 50 states how to form their assemblies. I got to learn from the people that trained under General Douglas MacArthur, 1965, under the Restore America plan.
Yeah, neat opportunity. Thank you for calling in as well. We'll look forward to hearing from you on future shows. We'll be back on Friday and then on Saturday again. So let us know how the General Assembly goes.
I will. Thank you.
All right. Looking forward to it. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right. Well, are
That
you
worked
guys?
well.
Yeah. Yeah, that call worked great. I think we're pretty much closed out here. Back into wait and see mode. It's been good comparing notes, though.
Yeah, good catching up.
Thanks for getting the call-in set up.
Yeah.
Well, I'm watching it snow another foot on us right now. We talk about a lot of stuff that I don't think he did something that he defined some terms, right? And I think that we get into talking about things that we understand with each other that we don't define terms. I wondered if we have ever defined what quantitative easing is, because we're basically what they're calling QE5 with the banks and stuff. So I wonder if one of you guys want to give a definition of QE. Because well, the reason I'm bringing it up is because last Monday I think we talked about QE eternity over and over. And later I thought, people may not know what QE is. It means quantitative easing. They might not know what it means, what it's for, because they're going to hear it a lot more on the news if they watch it.
Sure. Do you remember that old video about the Fed? I mean, who could forget it? And the Ben Bernanke.
Which one? Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one. I'm gonna post that in the comments for people who I'm gonna try to find it. But anyway, yeah, I'll take a swing at quantitative easing. Quantitative easing. Basically, the Fed agrees to buy government, essentially an unlimited number of government bonds. So the government issues a bond, and the Fed gives the government a pile of cash for it. And then that brings the cash into circulation. The government gets the cash from the Fed that way, and then distributes it through a spending bill or whatever. Meanwhile, the government racks up debt to the Federal Reserve, which basically never gets paid back. And so it's a method by which almost unlimited amount of new money is brought into circulation. And the effect of it is that it pushes the price of everything up. The amount of stuff in the world hasn't changed, but the amount of dollars floating around chasing after that stuff has changed. So it pushes the value of your money down.
Of your currency.
Yeah, currency. Yes.
And if you think about, I believe I read on that Economic Policy Journal thing that this $6 trillion bill that they're talking about passing, it's just time. Time's the only thing that's keeping it from being passed. Is 1/3 of U.S. GDP, gross domestic product. So that's it's equal to 1/3. That's an incredible, unbelievable amount of money.
It tells you about what they think the shutdown's going to be too. That's 4 months.
Yep.
Or the effect of the shutdown.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. And they're, of course, saying it's not enough already, which, they always do that to give themselves an out to, when this doesn't fix anything, well, it's because we didn't give them enough money. It's kind of like schools. They keep failing because we don't give them enough money.
More is the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Friday, what might be fun too is we could have, if people want to call in, because that seemed to work all right, what they are doing differently now since, like, with Idaho having the stay-at-home thing. What are people doing differently? And what would be really cool, I don't know if we have too many people that have kids in public schools, but it'd be interesting to hear from families call in to let us know how they're handling the homeschool aspect that they're being thrust into. That'd be really fun to get a perspective on.
That's a really good idea. Yeah, Friday. Just do primarily call in. Saturday, we got a lot of viewers on Saturday by comparison to these weekday shows. I think the call in on Saturday is going to be excellent.
Yeah. Yeah, because for a lot of people, like my wife said the other day, she said, "Oh, stay at home, so normal life." For a lot of people, kids stay at home anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But it'd be interesting to hear the different experiences people are going through.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Let's do that. I'll throw that in the show notes.
I know we probably should. Yeah, I know we should go, but I'm just really interested in seeing that. I thought Idaho was one of the states that would not do a hunker down order because it's pretty conservative, politically conservative, conservative, but pretty conservative. So I was surprised to see that because issuing the 21-day automatically pushes it past Trump's get back to work on Easter date. So all that's Oh, that's pretty interesting. And with Idaho doing that, I would not be surprised to see Alaska do it, which I really think the only reason right now that they have not is because the state is scared to death to actually have the North Slope shut down completely.
It's the only thing worse than $20 oil is zero.
Yes, I really think that's a key factor with Alaska's decision making. As well, it should be. I mean, outside of should there even be a state and should there be these oil companies giving money to the state and all that. Besides that, Alaska's concern should be. And it's, for Alaskans, it's concerning too, because like you said, Dave, it's just right around the corner from income tax, sales tax, no more dividend, all the above. Welcome to the lower 48.
Yep. No different. Yeah. There's the policy makers in Juneau are it's chaos, and policy is being proposed faster than it can be written because it has to be written in legal language. And people are showing up on the floor of the House and Senate and just saying, "We need to do this," and then
Or
a bunch
Twitter.
of people are, or Twitter. Yeah, right. Well, that's basically what the floor of the House and Senate are right now. I hear, and people are just like, "We need to do this." Rah! It's like The Simpsons when that guy came and sold them a monorail. You guys ever seen that one?
No, not familiar, but
I have.
Yeah, they got this traveling salesman, and like, why does Springfield need a monorail? There's no reason. And this guy has this song and dance. I'm gonna post it in the YouTube right now. Anyway, there it is. Gonna need a monorail. So that's apparently what's going on. So they don't have people fast enough who can convert these wonderful ideas into legal language that can actually be voted on.
Isn't it fascinating too? I think this is a real good case for, I've seen one side saying, well, this is a darn surefire case of why we need the state, and I think this is a good case for why we should not have a state. Because basically you have what you just said with these people freaking out in Juneau. What do they know any more than us three or anyone watching on how the rest of us should live, or how our economy should go, or what our economic needs are? What makes them gods that they know all these things? What makes central planning the best thing for you and me and Corey and the callers and the watchers? I mean, we have people in Congress that think that Guam could tip over. We have people in Congress thinking that you can coin $1 trillion coin and it doesn't cost anything. Those are the people running the rest of our lives saying, yep, central planning, that's the way to go. How is that possibly a good thing? Or, AOC, who says that we got to have Milton Friedman. We got to look to Milton Friedman, or was it? Or what do you say? Not Friedman. She mixed up Friedman and Keynes' first and last name together.
Oh, John
And
Maynard
she supposedly
Friedman.
has
Milton Keynes.
She has a degree in Milton Keynes. She has a degree in economics, supposedly. Come on. Oh, it hurts the head.
Yeah, well,
we're seeing what centralization does.
That's the gold silver thing Mike was talking about is, take your chips off the table. The casino's about to get weird. Take your chips off the table, go home for a while, and come back when they've issued new chips. And that's sort of, the reality of it is the game is controlled by, whatever, all sorts of folks. And you got to dip into it to make some scratch, to pay rent and, buy food. But it's as good a time as ever to pull a few chips off the table and put them somewhere else, and not let them play games with your money. Good time to buy gold and silver potentially. I've said that before when it was not the best thing to do, but I have yet to lose money buying gold and silver. And things.
No, and you know what? It never. it doesn't seem to mold. I mean, you can't wipe your butt with it like toilet paper, but I've had some that's been sitting around for a long time and it looks the same as it did 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it was fun.
We need some kind of
Central planning is not the answer, folks.
ETF type instrument that takes bets on the establishment of FedCoin and then what its opening price will be, so that you can bet for or against it before it even shows up.
I wonder if there are gambling markets for that already.
Yeah.
You know what they need? We need a blockchain. We need a token that does that or something. A gambling blockchain on FedCoin.
Yes.
FedCoin Cash.
FedCoin Cash.
Yeah.
Decentralize
Awesome.
your FedCoin.
Exactly.
Cool.
It has been fun. I'll catch up with you guys on Friday.
Okay, sounds good.
Right on. Sounds
Cool.
good.
See you guys.
Same time, right?
Bye.
Or are we
Same
looking
time.
at
Market close.
close of market?
Yep.
Right on. Thanks
All
everyone
right.
that watched.
Peace.
Bye.
Now go out there and don't touch your face.